Hey folks, John Cantera, the double broker bounty hunter, coming to you again. It's another wonderful yet very cold Monday afternoon. Welcome to Stop the Scam. This is the last show of our first year. Next week, we will get to have our anniversary episode. So much looking forward to that. We're going to be seeing a bunch of old friends. There is talk, however, and a cat is ruining my green screen. There is talk, however, that we may bump the show next week to Tuesday afternoon. We'll put that out on our social media if that in fact happens. It depends on one of the guests that we really want to have come in. And if my cat can stop the damn green screen, things will get a lot easier. But today we're going to be talking a lot about compliance and safety. We've got a great guest today to help us out with all that. So let's go ahead and get this party started.
Welcome to the Double Broker Bounty Hunters Stop the Scam. Here are your hosts, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter, John Cantera, and Dispatch Kate, Caitlin Price.
Another one bites the dust.
Oh, yeah.
Another one bites the dust.
Way to go, Queen. All right. So, Kate, it is another Monday. I don't know about you, but I am freezing.
I am not actually.
I thought you guys were getting hit with some record cold or something out there in Houston.
We are, but I'm from the north, man.
Okay. I'm from the north, too. I'm a Yankee. Okay. For those who don't know, I'm from around the Philly area. Go Birds. Okay. We got one more to go to get to the big show again, which we'll probably lose, but you know what? That's okay. So I'm very used to the cold, but I've been in Pensacola now for about 4 years. And here in Pensacola, we get maybe a couple of flakes every 20 years, maybe. And I'm talking of snow here. And tomorrow we are actually forecasted to get 3 to 5 inches in downtown Pensacola. So the entire city is freaking out. I'm glad I have nowhere I have to go. I'm glad my wife is out of town. So I am just going to stay put and try to stay warm because it is cold as balls out. But that's just here. And Kate, you've had a huge victory today. You want to go ahead and go over that real quick?
Yesterday, I went to, this is a new carrier. So I had a new carrier. He just recently came to me wanting me to work with them in dispatching. So yesterday, I found a load for him, called the broker, discussed, a few details, and gave him RMC, and we weren't set up. So he sent me a carrier packet. It's an RMIS packet, which now have become a pain in the butt, but that's beside the point. So I was working on the carrier packet, and this particular broker required 3 references. Well, I didn't have 3 previous rate confirmations from this guy because, like I said, he was new with me. So I kind of got held up there. Another thing to point out is the driver didn't have enough service on his phone to load his emails and send out emails. So he was having his mother-in-law check his work email and send things to me as they came in. So at some point I said, hey, I need 3 references. You can just send me your 3 most recent rate confirmations. That's fine. He said, okay. She said she'll do it when she gets home. She was out doing something or whatever. So about an hour passes, and still don't have them. And I'm like, man, whatever. This load's gone. It's off the board. It's gone. Whatever. It's fine. We'll just find a new one. Around 4 o'clock, maybe it was 3 o'clock. Probably had to be 3. The broker called the mother-in-law and told the mother-in-law that he was pissed because we're not picking up his load and that he was going to file a freight guard against the carrier for it. And mind you, we never even filled out a carrier packet. We spoke about this load on the phone. He sent me the carrier packet. I was not able to finish it. So he was pissed that we didn't end up completing the carrier packet and getting a rate confirmation and hauling the load. So he actually did file a freight guard because I was thinking, whatever, he's not going to file a freight guard. Because what would you say? She didn't fill out my carrier packet. I mean, whatever. But he did end up filing a freight guard, and he put no call, no show, canceled after accepting a load, and unethical or deceptive business practices. And then the comments sort of badly explained what happened, but also said that he had tried to call us like 4 times prior to filing the freight guard, and I'm the one that originally called on the load, and I never got a phone call, and the owner never got a phone call to my knowledge. I'm not sure about the mother-in-law, but it didn't seem like she did either. She was kind of surprised when he ended up calling her and yelling that he was going to file a freight guard. So anyways, all weekend we let this stew because he filed the freight guard at 3:15. I think that was Central Time. And so we really didn't have a lot of time to work with. So this morning, John was wonderful and helped me with the whole situation. And we ended up sending an email to their operations team, and we got a response back pretty quickly once the operations email was attached that they had removed the freight guard. But it wasn't the guy who had issued the freight guard that responded and removed it. It seemed like it was maybe his superior or something. Very interesting.
I am just glad that nightmare is over. And Kate, you've been dispatching now, what, 5 years?
No, 3 years.
3 years. And you can now sit there and say you still have not had a carrier that ever got a freight guard because it's gone. So
yes, but up until now, I could say I've never even stepped into that territory.
Yeah, well, we fought it. We won. We fought it. We won. But it also takes good planning. It takes knowing what you're up against, and it takes knowing how to prep a defense, which goes right in line with how to run your trucking company. Running your trucking company requires a plan, including knowing what your costs are, and that's where AccuBid Pro comes in.
Do you know your cost per mile? Have you been hitting your profit margins? Do you struggle with bidding in a way that is both profitable and competitive? Would it be worth it to have all this information right in front of you? By calculating your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro helps you stay profitable in an industry still struggling to recover. In order to calculate your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro asks you questions about your business expenses. Our goal is to help you understand what you need to keep operating in order to keep up with the game and maintain your business. Enter your origin and destination, and we show you what you should bid based on your personal cost per mile in order to be profitable, even including a more detailed breakdown of each bid. Download the app today and get your 30-day free trial of AccuBid Pro, available on the App Store and Google Play. Bid smarter, bid faster, bid better with AccuBid Pro.
And remember, folks, when you download AccuBid Pro from the App Store or Google Play, you do get your first month subscription free. So go and check that out, especially if you're a new carrier. If you don't know your cost per mile, that is your own damn fault. With that being said, let's go ahead and introduce our guest. Today, we have a compliance and safety guru. You've probably seen him posting on LinkedIn on a regular basis and making some damn good comments. And now he is stepping out on his own as a true professional. We are bringing into the house Sam Watts of Wattsman's Diesel House. Sam, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. We finally got here. I know we talked a couple months ago about doing this, and then just could never quite get it, and here we are.
Well, we have a very good reason, and you have seen an evolution in your career. Why don't you go ahead and talk about what got us here and what's going on with you?
Yeah. So I've been in the trucking industry my entire life. I mean, there was a brief moment where I escaped and did some stuff in a wood shop, but that's a story for a whole nother podcast. But
Well, we all know that once you're in this industry, it's like the mafia. There is no getting out.
you can't. You could try. That's how I'm missing my right foot. It's because I tried getting out. They chopped it right off, and now here I am. I'm back again. But no, you're incredibly
kidding.
accurate. No, I still have my right foot. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we're good. Just a joke. But no, you're entirely right. In fact, kind of a funny story. You know, before we went live, I was telling you my father was in the industry forever, since college all the way up till whatever. So I've gone through this with him. I've been in it since the late '90s myself. But even before I was actually in it, I was still in it. I mean, I've got very, very fond memories of walking into trucking companies, into terminals, and seeing dispatcher. I mean, there's just a haze throughout the whole thing of cigarette smoke. Just the good old days, quite frankly.
The old days, yeah.
It's
I've got my
not-
cigars over on the other end of the table here. I'll be
See?
smoking them later.
Yeah, you're not supposed to say this, but I'm not a smoker myself, but I have an incredible nostalgic feeling for cigarette smoke, just because like that is what my childhood was just these hazy offices. I learned probably some very inappropriate words at a very young age, but that was it. That still is the industry. And so I got to go along with them. But the funny thing is that I was working at a company in like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there as a dispatcher. I was in the operations, and I was sitting next to a guy. We got talking, and it turns out he worked with my dad at a previous company about 25 years before I worked with him. So I mean, you can't get out of this industry. Once you're in, you're in. And I always like to tell the young guys too. I mean, I know I look young myself, but I'm actually not. In fact, I'm turning 41 here in a couple weeks.
Oh God, you're still a kid.
I know, but man, tell that to my back. Holy cow, I'm not young anymore. But I always tell these young guys, I'm like, don't ever burn a bridge in the trucking industry. Yeah, you can like not cross it again, but don't ever burn the bridge, because man, you're going to see these people probably again somewhere down the line if you don't get out of the industry. It's a big industry, but at the same time, it is incredibly small. I don't know how else to explain it, but it truly is very unique. And maybe other industries are like this as well, but I've never been in them. So trucking is what I know. Trucking is what I do. So like I said, I came from operations. And it turns out my old man actually ended up starting a trucking company, and I was doing operations for him, and just the two of us, and we got smoked by a compliance review, an audit. After the first year, you get audited, and we got smoked in that thing because both of us were operations guys. We knew enough safety to like not get caught. Like we knew we had to have e-logs and the stuff, and we knew about you can only drive for a certain amount of time. And
See, it's always fun listening to a safety guy sit there and say, I know enough about safety, and then you expect to hear to be dangerous.
Well, I guess you could say that. Yeah, we just knew enough not to get caught. But the problem
Right.
is that you do eventually. And that's why I try to tell everybody I work with is that you're going to get caught. Like there's going to be something. If you're not running a truly safe and compliant program, it's going to catch up to you. And so we got caught. I mean, we had issues that we had to fix. And so that's kind of where I started my whole safety journey, if you want to call it that, was like, holy cow, like if you don't pay attention to this stuff, if you don't build your company on the foundation of safety, your company's going to go away. I mean, there's just no really any other way to say that. You can be operations minded. I know everyone likes operations because that's where the money's at. That's where the big trucks are at, all that kind of stuff. But if you don't build that foundation of safety, operations is only going to take you so far. Because again, you're going to do something that is going to, put you out of business very quickly, and DOT will put you out of business. I mean, in a runaround type of way. But you'll get shut down if you're acting inappropriately and not safety out there, not safety conscious. You'll get shut down. So I try to tell all the people I work with, like, have that foundation of safety, then build on top of that, and that seems to work pretty well.
So you have now evolved out of your previous life and into this new one. Talk a little bit about your new business.
So Wattsman Diesel House is an idea I've had for a while now, but I've never really been able to put all of my energies behind it because I've been with different companies. But now I am. I've decided to go full board with this thing. And what it is basically is the easiest way to describe it is a safety and compliance consultant. But I am extremely hesitant with the word consultant because we all have known consultants in our life where they come in, they say, you're doing this wrong, and this wrong. Give me my money. I'm out of here. And that's not what I don't like that. That doesn't work. So what I am doing with Wattsman Diesel House is I am going in and saying, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I'll fix it for you. So because you go to a lot of these trucking companies, these smaller ones, and that's what I focus on, is the smaller guys. They make up the majority of the trucking community out there, but they don't have the funds to hire a full-time safety guy, or they don't know a full-time safety guy, or what I see a lot of too is that we had Billy doing our safety, and then you get in there and go, Billy shouldn't have done your safety. Okay, Billy didn't know safety at all, and you might have paid him to do it, but he didn't do a good job for you. So what I'm saying is, if you go into these small guys and say, hey guys, guess what, your driver qualification files are out of whack, 9 out of 10 times they're going to look at you and go, what's a driver qualification file? So instead of going and saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and fix it, I say, this is wrong, I'll fix it for you. You pay me the fee, and then I go in and I fix it for you. Are you missing driver applications out of your DQ files? I'll get those. Are you missing, are the med cards up to date? Are the driver's license up to date? Okay, cool. You got the driver qualification files in order now. That's great. Now let's look at your logs. Do you even need to run logs, or are you not running logs? You should be running logs. I mean, there's just so many pieces with safety compliance that a lot of guys don't. It's that classic, or maybe even cliche example of, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of guys, a lot of carriers are not trying to skate around the law, or not trying to break the law, or not be in non-compliance. Is that the word? I don't know. They're trying to be compliant, but they just don't know that they're not compliant. They just don't know that because, like me and my father, we came from some bigger companies, and we had a safety department, we had a payroll department, we had all that stuff. So all I had to do was concentrate on operations. Well, then once you go and start your own and you have 10 trucks, you're everything. You are billing, you are the janitor, you are the operations. So that's why with Wattsman Diesel House, I really focus on the smaller guys, because you got one truck, you got 20 trucks, you got 50, 100,000, whatever. FMCSA is going to look at you. And sometimes the smaller guys are the ones that do get looked at more often because, maybe they can't keep up with their maintenance program on their trucks. So they're getting pulled into weigh stations a lot more, or, there's just various circumstances with that. And typically the small guys will get looked at by FMCSA, but they don't have the means or the money to have a full-time safety guy. That's me. I come in, I make sure everything's compliant. And I like to think of myself as a smoke detector. If you're on fire, you got to call the fire department. Well, the fire department's expensive. I know because I can be the fire department as well. When you're on fire, that gets to be a lot more expensive. When the auditors are already at your door saying, we want to take a look at your books, and you call me and say, hey, the auditors are here. Yeah, I can help you out with that, but that's going to be expensive. Whereas as a smoke detector, you say, I'll make sure you're set up so the auditors don't come knocking. And so that's what Wattsman Diesel House does. That's what we're ramping up to do.
Very cool. Now, is this just going to be carriers, or do you also have an attention towards brokers and what they need to be doing as well?
So right now, I just handle carriers.
Okay.
Brokers, I know they kind of have their own piece as well. But right now, I'm just focusing on carriers. That's not to say eventually we can't, help out some brokers with with some stuff. And I have talked to a couple of them, and the thing that I really enjoy doing about all this is just educating people. I appreciate the nice words about the post and everything that I make on LinkedIn. That's what I love doing. Right now I'm creating a class about, starting a trucking company with the foundation of safety. Like I said, I'm working on a couple webinars, some video series, stuff like that. I also have my own podcast that I have rebranded and I'm relaunching here, hopefully next week, called Sonic Safety. Used to be called Trucking Safety, but then I decided let's get creative with the title here for Pete's sakes. And so we're relaunching that, and all I like to teach people what they should be doing. Again, that you don't know what you don't know. I wanted to help you with that because again, I've been in the small carriers where I didn't know. I didn't know I had to validate that the doctor who did the med card procedure was actually on the registry. Like I didn't know that stuff. So it's like I want to help you guys out, and doing that means educating you, teaching you. And so I've done that with some brokers. They'll call me and just like, what should I do? And it helps the relationship between broker and carrier when the brokers know what the carriers are going through. That there seems to be like this disconnect or this infighting between brokers and carriers because they just don't understand each other, I think, some of the time. So I've been on those receiving calls. I'm sure you guys have too, with brokers like, well, why isn't that load here yet? Then you have to calmly explain to them the driver needs a 10-hour break. Like that's not our deal. That's an FMCSA mandatory thing. And once they kind of figure that stuff out, because again, brokers, there's great brokers out there. I'm not dissing brokers by any means. There's some really good ones out there. There are some that are very new to the industry though. And the same with dispatchers. And a lot of times it's just when they're in those positions and maybe they've been there for a couple months, they don't really want to ask questions, because they don't want to seem like they don't know what they're talking about. So that it's just a matter of explaining these simple, truths to them, that this is how it operates. This is how a truck carrier has to operate. And, there's just really no way of getting around it. So I like to teach people what they should know so they don't know what they don't know. I want to fill in that gap.
The safety and compliance gap is, I'm sorry to say, a big one. I remember my days as a carrier. I had my own box truck company. We did final mile delivery, and later we did over the road work with our box trucks. And I remember when I had my face-to-face back then, face-to-face initial audit with DOT. I walked in and I sat around in that waiting area in a hotel lobby, and all the other carriers around me were all crying in their beer because they had failed something, So I'm nervous as all hell. I got this big plastic tote with all my files in it. I've got my driver qualification files. I've got all my BOLs. I got everything. Mm-hmm. And I go up to the officer and he says, okay, hand me this. Here you go. Hand me one of these. Okay, here's one of these. Here's another. Give me another driver that has a CDL. Okay, here you go. So I had a couple of flatbeds that were leased onto me as well. And perfect. Not a single critique, not a single demerit, nothing. Everything went flawless. And I walked out of there. I was all smiles, and everyone was pea green with envy. And I'm like, I know everything. I know everything. And the next week I got busted because it was the start of the new year because I didn't renew my UCR. So, I tell all my carriers that I dispatch for now in December, don't forget your UCR because that's a $300 fine just waiting for you on January 1st.
Right. And
boy, they're out there looking for it.
I have yet to find out, and maybe you can fill me in on this because I've never really dove deep into it, but what is, I mean, unified carrier registration? I mean, I know what it is, but it's like, what's the point of it? Does anyone know what the point of having the UCR is?
You know, I've never asked that question, and I would rather put you on the hot seat for that, Mr. Compliance Guy. So there's some homework for you for the future. Uh,
Sure.
but we all know the UCR is an annual requirement, and it's just
Mhm.
something that we have to renew. It's not very expensive. It's literally just clicking a box.
Mhm.
There's nothing to it. Yet it's still one of the many regulatory traps that carriers end up going through every single year for whatever reason. Stack on top of that IFTA, stack on
Mhm.
top of that the different kind of state permits, New York,
Yep.
Kentucky,
Yep.
and
Oregon, New
we're not even
Mexico. Yeah.
talking about over dimensional.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many different sides to this, and I operate mostly in the LTL world, box trucks, hot shots, things of that nature. I'm fairly savvy on those, but never have I ever gotten anyone to sit there and tell me, okay, for a non-CDL setup, have to do IFTA. Do you
Mhm.
have to go through the way stations? Do you have to do this? And I keep telling people, I was like, look, it's different state to state. So
Yeah.
there is no straight answer to that. So when in doubt, just do it.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
it's like I was based out of Georgia and I had another terminal in Florida. Well, fuel tax is uh, is pretty significant. So when I cross state lines, like doing local delivery into Mobile, Alabama, or into Hilton Head, South Carolina, I made sure I got my gas in Florida or I got my gas in Georgia. And
Yep.
driving in those other states, I ended up making money off of IFTA.
Mm.
So that actually worked in my favor. So you need to know what fuel tax is in
Right.
all the other states to gamble how that game's out.
Yeah.
And I won in that, but being box trucks, I've also been told over and over again, oh, you don't even have to. I don't want to take the risk. Oh, and again, I made money off of it. So
Sure.
why not?
Yeah. And that's one thing that, like you said, one of my biggest pet peeves with some of the stuff that DOT puts out there is like there is that gray area. And it seems like every state now is kind of coming up with their own rules and stuff like that. And I live in the Illinois area, so we've got exemptions everywhere for like agriculture and are you hauling a commodity that agriculture uses, and just things like that. It's like like I said, I don't think that there are carriers out there who are trying to cheat the system. I know that. But I think the majority of the people that are having issues aren't trying to cheat the system. There's just too much, too many rules and too much regulations that they just can't keep up with it. And like I was talking to a guy the other day who was like, I can do this. They got the 150 air mile thing. He's like, and we fully qualify for that. And then he was going on to describe the company. I'm like, I don't think you qualify for this, man. I think you're running that thing the wrong way. And again, he had absolutely no clue. But the problem with DOT is that ignorance is not bliss when it comes to DOT stuff. They don't care if you thought I thought it was this way. They don't care. So that's why it is important that, like I said, if in doubt, just pull into the way station or file the whatever, because okay, you might be out a couple $100 or whatever, or slowed down for something, but um, like the other side could be thousands of dollars in fines, or even worse, or like a full out audit to monitor your business practices, and then you know, I don't know where it goes from there. I mean, depending on what your business is, I mean, it could get ugly pretty quickly.
So we are in the midst of probably one of the biggest debates in the transportation industry in years. For those who don't remember, we are still dealing with the transparency issue. The deadline for comments on that is actually tomorrow. So if you have not submitted your comments to FMCSA about the changes to the transparency law, 49 CFR 371.3, make those comments by tomorrow. The more the merrier, folks. So little things like this, I imagine, are things that are always going to be on your radar. Regulation changes of any kind. So how do you keep up with these things that they come up? I mean, for me, it's catching the buzz as it hits social media. How do you keep up with the stuff?
Yeah, the FMCSA does a pretty good job of putting out bulletins and stuff like that. Um, you know, I'm kind of the same way. Like I'll visit their website once or twice a week just to see what's out there. In fact, I was just reading a couple of the new ones coming up for 2025. They're trying to do a couple of new things. They've been talking about like doing like the oral drug testing for a while now. It's that's kind of the big thing with me is like government moves way too slow. Like I'm used to trucking, man. Like we go quickly and stuff like that. So I'll be there'll be times where I'm like, oh, that didn't pass yet. Like we've been talking about this for 2 years. What's going on with this thing? And it's still like, oh, we're doing another regular, or they're pushing it down the line. In fact, what was I just saw a thing today that they're supposed to talk about like November of last year, and then I got pushed to June of 2025, and it was kind of a bigger thing. Now, of course, now when the lights and the cameras are on, my mind has gone blank on me. But yeah, it was just kind of like, um, gosh, I can't remember now. But anyways,
The joy of live shows, everybody.
exactly. Yeah, give me 2 minutes, I'll go look it up. But yeah, I was just reading about that. Anyway, but you're right. I mean, it's just kind of there are those bigger ones that hit that you kind of like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on that one or keep an ear out. And there's a couple people in the safety world that that will keep a much closer eye on it and are very good at explaining it. I'll give a shout out to Truck Safe Boys out of they're just called Truck Safe, but I call them the Truck Safe Boys out of Indiana. They're very good at because they got a legal background, which I do not. I don't have a legal background, which I think kind of separates me from some of the other safety guys too, because a lot of them will come from a legal background where I come from an operations background. So anyways, but I rely kind of heavily on those guys because they'll keep a close eye on stuff and then kind of explain it for all of us simple folk, kind of what's going on, what we need to know, and they're very good because like even some of the safety jargon out there can get very legalese sounding, and that the safety stuff I can read because I know what they're talking about, but when they are translating it from the legal stuff to the safety verbiage, that's where things can kind of get a little screwy for me because there's a lot of weird words that the legal people like to use, and I still maintain they like to use that language to confuse us regular folks so that they can say that they're important people in society, lawyers that is, because we need them to translate stuff. But that's just my little dig at lawyers. I don't. It's not for everyone. Not I know a lot of good lawyers out there, but anyway, yeah, there are some regulations that pop up, and quite frankly, it's just a matter of looking for it and just kind of keeping your ear out for it as well.
So, are there any regulatory issues that you think are most critical to the industry today that are or are not being addressed? If this is your perfect world and and you were King Sam, what would be your focus?
Just in trucking, right? Not
In
like
trucking,
in the wreck.
yes.
Because I
In
got some
trucking.
beef out there, but not with trucking.
Now, if you got beef, I got pork. Let's go.
One piece that always trips up a lot of people that I talk to, it goes back to the hours of service, and it's been talked about so much, but it's personal conveyance. Okay, everybody has issues with personal conveyance, and my beef has always been about that. Is that it's very broad in some respects. Like there's some very pointed illustrations on how personal conveyance could be used, but there's also a lot of gray area in it. And so there's been times where guys have used it incorrectly, but a DOT officer said, yeah, that's fine. And then there's been guys that have what I thought have been using it like pretty close to good to what it's supposed to. And DOT officers will say, no, like that's not how you use it. Then we have to data queue it and And it takes a while to get that taken off because they did use it correctly, but the DOT officer had a bad day or something, I don't know, and wrote us up because there's just enough gray area in that to make you go, okay, I can see how you're doing it that way. And one big thing that I've always kind of disagreed with on it, the one thing I would change, um, and I kind of see why they have it in there, but I don't agree with it, is if you deliver a load and then PC back to your house. Like you're out of the road for 2 weeks, deliver in, let's just say Wichita, Kansas, and you PC back to Kansas City. You can't do that. That's technically a continuation of the load, and the right DOT officer could point that out and fine you for that. I don't think that's right. I think if you deliver a load, you should be able to PC back to your house and call that good. Now, again, there's even with that, there's some variables in there, some gray area that they really don't address. So that would be, if you ask me right off the top of my head, what thing I would do right away is I would make personal conveyance a lot more black and white than it is, and I would lean in those regulations more on the truck driver side because again, they already got a hard enough job. Like I said, if they're delivering something, they want to go home, they're just trying to get home. Like, I mean, it's just kind of that simple. So that'd be like number one. If you said day one, what are you doing? That would be it.
Hey, before we get off that, can't you PC home if you're within like a certain number of miles or something?
No, not supposed to.
I always thought that was the thing. Like you could PC if you're within 100 miles of home or something like that.
No, but this is exactly, you're bringing up my point exactly. Like that, a big one that I always heard from drivers. Well, I'm empty. I don't have anything in my trailer. Like that doesn't matter. You can actually PC when you're fully loaded, under the right regulations. And then everyone, like you, Kate, everyone's got like that thing. Like, oh, I thought I could do this, and someone a long time ago said I could do this. So it's like, again. No, but that's where that gray area comes in at. Like maybe there could be a regulation, like if you're within 100 miles of home, you could do. I mean, that's where I think I would like to nail that down a little bit more because you're exactly right, Kate. That everyone's has that variation of I thought I could do this, and again, it just takes that one DOT officer to say no, you cannot, and then you got to
they're
find
all over the place. Trust me, they're everywhere.
Yeah, that sounds like a 5-episode arc for your podcast right there, just on PC.
We're looking at Oklahoma and Colorado.
Yeah, they're
in Pennsylvania.
I was working with Indiana. Don't forget Indiana. Those guys are nuts in Indiana. I'm just kidding. I like DOT officers. Don't get me wrong, but like Indiana is tough to get through. And I was working with a carrier one time, and there was, I forget where it was, but it was on the border of Texas coming into Oklahoma, and it was always open, and we always got pulled in. And half the time we were fine. The other half the time they find something, yeah, that's there are definitely those hot spots out there.
So Indiana is one of those places where carriers who are dying to get an inspection should be running through on a regular basis. Got it.
Exactly. And that's why I try to tell guys, like, they're like, oh, I don't want to do that because they'll get inspected. I'm like, you want clean inspection. Like, that is the goal. Like, I wouldn't get inspected if you're going to fail it. But, like, the more clean inspections you have, the better it's going to be for you. So don't be afraid.
Well, insurance rates go down.
Mm-hmm.
You get access to more loads. Brokers willing to work with you. I mean, geez, I had a guy who got one truck carrier who got popped once and taken out of service. Then all of a sudden, a bunch of brokers won't use him because the safety score is too high. Yeah. And now he's got to get popped 4 more times flawlessly to get it back in check. And it's like
one carrier whose safety score is always shit, and it's my lease-on guy because lease-on drivers just ruin your safety score unless they really know what they're doing, which 9 times out of 10 they don't. And I've only been rejected for his safety score on a load like twice in the last year.
Well, you brought up the point. You said insurance there, John. like that's one piece that a lot of carriers don't correlate with safety. And in fact, I was just talking to an insurance buddy on Friday, and we were just talking about how underwriters have begun to really lose all sense of humor when it comes to any sort of safety scores. Because if you like, there's a thing called a cab report out there, and it basically has a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. And it used to be that if you had a red light, as long as you had a good enough story, like they'd work with you. But now if you're in the yellow light, like caution type thing, they won't even look at you, some of them. So, and the only way you get that is by failing inspections or things like that. So it's like, it's gotten to a point where if you start failing inspections, like you're in trouble of not being able to have insurance, which means you don't get to run. So that's one piece that a lot of people or a lot of carriers don't really connect with safety is the insurance piece. Insurances are just starting to not insure guys. They're, insure carriers, and that's becoming quite the problem now too.
Well, we have seen a huge reduction in the number of active authorities that exist in the industry. As I recall, 2 years ago, I think it was January of 2023, you were looking at somewhere around 700,000 active authorities, broker and carrier, in the DOT system, where today you're looking at roughly 360,000, almost half. So that is a massive contraction in the number of brokers and carriers who have exited the industry in one form or fashion. And insurance certainly plays a large part in almost any of those. Because I don't know of anybody who sat there and said their insurance rates have gone down year over year. They're all going up. And it's all because of the fraud that's going on in the industry. It's all going because of all of the new and 2-month carriers that come in and then walk right back out again after getting their first wreck. This stuff is just gone insane. And then on top of that, cargo theft, and it's gone absolutely crazy, which is why someone like you and the service you provide is becoming so important. Trying to keep carriers on the straight and narrow. Thankfully, there's less carriers out there that you have to try to coax to get them going the right direction. When I first started Double Broker Bounty Hunter program, we were looking at 2,000, 2,500 new entrants every week. Now you're looking at only 1,000 new entrants every week, but that's 1,000 people that can get conned into some of these scam loads that we see all the damn time on the load boards. And they all fall for it. So I'm not going to be out of work anytime soon,
Sure.
as much as I'd love to. But the safety side, I think there's huge opportunities there within the industry, and it's good to see folks like you trying to fill that gap. What is the best way for a small carrier to reach out to you if they need your services?
They can go to my website. It's just wattsman.com, WATTSMEN.com. All my contact information is there. You can email me, sam@wattsman.com. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I've gotten quite a bit of business off of that and all that. But yeah, I mean, wattsman.com is going to be your best spot to get a hold of me. Like I said, I mainly focus on small carriers, but if you're a larger carrier, I mean, I can help out too. I got the resources for that stuff. So, the reason I called it Wattsman Diesel House is all your safety compliance needs under one roof. So you need like policy documents. I can help you with that. Because like you need a drug and alcohol plan. A policy. If you don't have that, that's an issue. If you're like, hey, do I need ELDs? Do I need, what do I need? Can you audit me? Audit's a scary word, but like I like to go in and just kind of check on compliances and make sure that you have everything. So if an audit does happen, like a real one, that you're in good shape. Because it doesn't have to be a scary issue, kind of like, what you experienced, John. You should be pretty confident going into an audit. It's not terribly difficult to pass them. You just got to know got to know what you got to know. So, and guys like me, I can come in and say, you need this, or hey, man, it looks good. In fact, I talked to a guy 2 weeks ago, and he's like, what will it do after talking to him for a while? I literally talked myself out of work because I said, buddy, you're you're doing fine. Like, you don't need me. He's like, well, I want to do this. I'm like, do you have these things in place? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I could come in and charge you something, but nothing's going to change. Like, you're doing fine. I said, when you start getting down this path, because he was talking about growing, but he wasn't there yet. I said, once you start going down that path, let me know, and we can kind of revisit this. But for right now, man, you're doing good. Like, everything I'm seeing, you're fine. So, I try to be honest with people about that, and they seem to appreciate that a little bit too. So, but yeah, long story short, Wattsman.com. I can help you out with pretty much anything when it comes to safety compliance. IFTA, you talked about IFTA before. I could do all that filing for you and stuff, because some people just don't want to do it, and I get it. It's not that much fun, but
It's not glamorous.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's like doing your taxes.
kind of. Yeah, yeah, because it goes right to the IRS, or the revenue systems or whatever. So yeah, it's basically just taxes. So anyways, I can help you out with that, but go to wattsman.com and you can get my contact information from there.
I jumped to your plug a little premature because I do have a couple of other things I want to ask you here.
Okay.
You mentioned data queue. Okay.
Mm.
I get requests usually because of our background in helping people fight freight guards.
Mhm.
I get requests on dealing with data queue. I have no concept how to even start dealing with that, how to contest issues that carriers may wind up with erroneously or not. I mean, let's
Mhm.
face it, as it's been mentioned a couple times now, some of these DOT guys, God love them, they perform a very valuable service, but
Mhm.
sometimes they're just flat out wrong.
Mhm.
Okay. They're
Yep.
human.
Yeah.
So how does that process work? I mean, is that something that you were able to service you're able to provide as well?
Correct. Yeah. So again, it's kind of like IFTA. There's a lot of guys that you're in your exact position of like, I want to fight this, but I don't know how. Yeah, I can do that for you. I can fight that for you. I kind of know the language that needs to be. I mean, it's a website. You go to a website, dataqueue.com. No, I don't think that's what it is, but it's something with the FMCSA. And it's a website that you go to, and you basically fill out all the information. And like I said, there's sometimes you can use some buzzwords and keywords, or you can point the inspector in a different direction. I mean, it's kind of a game a little bit almost. But yeah, I can do data queues as well. The problem, I should say the problem. The one thing I always like to point out with people is, even if you say all the right things and you're 100% the right, I have seen times where they still don't they don't fall on your side. Like, it goes to this nameless, faceless person somewhere, probably in Washington D.C., and it's just kind of up to them to say, yeah, you're right, or no, we're going to stick with this. So data queue is a tricky thing, but if you do it right, most of the time you're going to come out ahead, and it helps you out, like with the CSA scores and stuff like that. So yeah, but that if you have data queue questions, I can help you out with that.
Fantastic. I had one other thing that was sitting right on the front of my brain, and I just can't get it out now. Kate, what am I missing? What am I missing here?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't
I
really.
mean, I've been racking my brain for the last 30 seconds. I was like, I knew there was something else I wanted to ask, and I can't freaking remember. Again, the joy of live shows. Yeah, but you said you're bringing your podcast back online here soon. What are the plans for that at this point?
Well, the plans for that is more safety talk, and I know everyone's like, "Wow, that's super fascinating, safety talk, can't wait." But I, I, I like to think that I can present it in an interesting way, and with Sonic Safety now, we're gonna have like some more guests and stuff like that. I want to bring in all the people I know. Again, I want to share the knowledge that I have, and that might sound kind of pompous or whatever, but it's like, this, if you've been in trucking, and especially in a certain discipline for a long enough time, like, you have so much that that you assume everybody else knows, until you start talking to them and they go, what do you mean? Like, even, I mean, and not to not to point any finger, but like even the data queue question, I'm like, what do you mean you don't know how to file a data queue? Of course, everyone knows how to file it. No, they don't. And same thing with this, like double brokering. Like I don't know just where to start with double brokering stuff. And break guarding you were talking about. I know of break guard, but I've been trying to think since you started talking. Like if I ever filed or like bought a freight guard, I don't know if I have, to be honest with you. So it's like that kind of stuff. Like I don't know if I know, but off the top of your head, this is exactly how you do it. So when it comes to safety and compliance, that's where I'm trying to kind of take a step back and go, okay, what questions have I answered 100 times for different people? Maybe other people have those questions too. And so that's what I want to try to, or that's what I'm going to be talking about on Sonic Safety, is just answering those questions with compliance and safety. And then, like I said, talking with some other people, because I've got some very, very smart friends who know even more than me, which is hard to believe. But they can come in and they can answer a lot of these other questions too. From, like I said, I got some legal friends that we're going to get in. I've got some operations people that I know, and then just some other various ones that I think will be good for the podcast too. So that'll be coming out. We're going to start that thing back up. It should be coming out next week on Tuesday of next week. And then yeah, I've got a webinar coming up actually next Tuesday as well. I got a webinar with Motive coming up. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going to talk to Motive about safety. I love Motive. I've used them for a number of years. I think they're a great electronic log provider, and they've got the dash cams dialed in now. They've got a bunch of other stuff that they're doing, and they asked me to be a part of the webinar. I said, of course. So that's next Tuesday. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff coming up.
Awesome. You going to be going to Matt's?
Maybe. I was 100% on board with it, and then I found out I might actually have another commitment that weekend in Wisconsin. So I got to double check on that other one. But if I'm not committed to Wisconsin, because I thought it was the week before Matt's, but now my wife said I think it's actually that weekend, so I got to double check. But if I'm available, yeah, I'm headed to Matt's.
I think Kate and I are going to be there. I think we're on the media crew. So very much looking forward to that. I understand the food for the media guys is awesome. I've not been yet, and I am dying to go. But
it's quite the show.
Yeah, as you know, we're partnered with Logistics Lounge and the Lounge Media Group, and we're all supposed to be going over to Matt's and do a huge content grab while we're there. So nice. I'm very much looking forward to that, and hopefully you're there, because I'd love to meet you face to face. For those who don't do podcasts a lot, not that you don't listen to them, but the reason why we have guests is because they are smarter than the rest of us. I mean, I could probably sit there and drone on for hours about all different kinds of crap that you don't care about. I mean, hell, I was a tech training instructor in the Air Force for a few years, and I taught an 11-week course. So I could go on to the cows come home, but I'm more of a cure for insomniacs than information sometimes. So the reason why we have guests is because they are smarter than us. Do I know a lot about safety? Sure. Do I know a lot about compliance? Sure. I didn't know anything about data queue. I mean, come on. Yeah. None of us know the whole thing. And the sooner that we own up to what we don't know, then the sooner we can get the help we need to be better at what we do. So, folks, speak up. Please, for the love of God, communicate. Oh, okay. I'll get off my soapbox now. It's my number one thing, especially when it comes to freight guards. All the freight guards that I deal with could have all been done away with before it ever happened just by communicating. Yeah. Almost all. Kate, you tried.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's crazy. And what I can't get over are the people who see the evidence in front of them and ignore it. We know what the right answer is. Oh, but they still could have been involved. So no, we're going to keep the freight guard up. And I imagine that's probably what's going through some evaluator's head in Washington when they're looking at a data queue report. I imagine that's what's going through somebody's head, and okay, hey, they're bureaucrats. What do you want? But what are you going to do? What are you going to
Yeah.
do? So you now have this big ball, your diesel house rolling forward here. What is next, Sam?
World domination, I believe.
World domination. I think you have one person ahead of you on that still.
Possibly.
We'll wait 4 years and see what happens, and then we'll see you in your campaign trail.
I could handle that, man. I've got 4 sons, and that's enough domination. I mean, even those boys give me a run for my money. I couldn't imagine being in charge of 400 million people or whatever it is. That would be exhausting. So no, I would just like to dominate my house, which some days is tricky enough. So yeah, but no, as far as like what's next, I mean, I'm booking clients up and helping out small trucking companies. I mean, that is what I want to do. Because I've been in those shoes of, we have a small trucking company. My father, like I said, my father started one. I worked with them, and then he ended up, a couple of years into it, he ended up having a stroke, which actually ended up having 2 strokes, which he's fine today. I mean, he's still with us. But like after that, he just lost, I don't want to say lost interest, but he just couldn't do the trucking stuff anymore, and there's a couple other things that were going on. We had some equipment that was extremely expensive, because this was right around 2021, somewhere in there. And so equipment was at an all-time high, and it just, long story short, it made more sense to get out than to keep going with it. But regardless, we were in that position. We had a small trucking company, and after the 1 year, we got a conditional rating, and the conditional rating sucks. And so we had to figure out how to get out of that. And so I want to take that and help out other small trucking companies so that you don't get the conditional rating. But if you do get a conditional rating, I can help you out with that, because I did it myself. So that's what the plan is, to help trucking companies build that foundation of safety.
Well, folks, from a fraud perspective, if you do wind up with a conditional rating, don't just go and create a chameleon carrier. Go see Sam instead. Okay, do it the right way. Okay, because you don't need the double broker bounty hunter come chasing you down for all the dumb crap you're doing. Okay, because I will come after you. If you don't believe me, ask some of my critics who send video threats to us every now and again.
Nice.
It's a joy. Between the death threats from the international scammers that we slow down their cash flow on, to the domestic guys that we are putting a dent in their business, and the constant threats of lawsuits. Love it. I think I'm doing something right. Okay, Sam, amazing story. We expect many great things coming from you in the next coming years. We're going to have you on probably quite a bit, I'm willing to bet, because there's a lot of things that go hand in hand between the fraud prevention and compliance. And I think that is going to be an area that we are going to be touching on a very, very regular basis. So definitely want to be able to bring you back, frankly, fairly often. But lots of luck. Yeah, lots of luck with the new business. Can't wait for your podcast to come out. I know I'll be subscribing when I see it. So I'll be watching for the announcements. I imagine you're going to be advertising all this on LinkedIn, or you have a YouTube channel?
LinkedIn's my main focus. I do have a YouTube channel. It's one of those where you understand this. Like when you start getting multiple social medias, oh my goodness, it's exhausting. Like I got my LinkedIn following. I like to keep them afloat with everything I've got, and then whatever I get after that, I get. So LinkedIn's going to be your best bet to keep up to date with me.
Well, as Sam goes to build his business, make sure you're building yours the right way. Know your costs with AccuBid Pro.
Do you know your cost per mile? Have you been hitting your profit margins? Do you struggle with bidding in a way that is both profitable and competitive? Would it be worth it to have all this information right in front of you? By calculating your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro helps you stay profitable in an industry still struggling to recover. In order to calculate your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro asks you questions about your business expenses. Our goal is to help you understand what you need to keep operating in order to keep up with the game and maintain your business. Enter your origin and destination, and we show you what you should bid based on your personal cost per mile in order to be profitable, even including a more detailed breakdown of each bid. Download the app today and get your 30-day free trial of AccuBid Pro, available on the App Store and Google Play. Bid smarter, bid faster, bid better with AccuBid Pro.
So, Sam, any final thoughts that you have for our audience today?
Nope. I created a video series for a couple different trucking companies where I do some safety stuff, and at the end of it, I would always say, drive safe. And that is my final thought. Make sure when you're out there, just drive safe.
Kate, you got anything for us for today?
No, you guys and your one-line enders are just funny.
Oh, come on. You have to have a classic closing. You really do. I mean, especially, even when you do something as dry as fraud prevention, because let's face it, this can be a dry topic from time to time. Because we talk a lot about the same things over and over again, because people keep getting hit on the same scams over and over and over again. So we do say the same things, like Stop the Scam is always live Mondays, 5 p.m. Central on all the Lounge Media Group social media outlets. Be sure to check us out. If you need our help, you can always reach Kate or myself, Jay Cantera, at stopthescampodcast.com or kprice@stopthescampodcast.com.
And you got to give me a minute to get in there. If you've emailed me on the Stop the Scam domain, I have not gotten into it yet. So patience.
Yeah, that's new, folks. We just introduced that a couple of weeks ago. So, okay. So that's a little new. Give me a break. Okay. Remember, tomorrow is the deadline for any comments that you have for the transparency over at FMCSA. Please get your thoughts in while you have the chance. It's like voting. This is your chance. Okay. You don't get another. So please feel free to express yourself. Stay safe out there, because there's a lot of snow if you're going to be out there on the Gulf Coast or on the southeast coast, southeast Atlantic coast. So be very careful. And no matter what you do, and this is my favorite part, don't let scammers take you for a ride. We'll see y'all next week for our anniversary show. Take care.
Bye, guys.